being in Bangalore gives you this thing of no problem is big enough.
And a hardcore Indian cricket fan keeping the cricket passion alive in America.
I do get a chance to sponsor some of the tournaments back in Bay Area.
When I was looking up your LinkedIn, I found out that you worked at LinkedIn.
Very different when you're building for scale versus you're building for just few users or few machines.
What was that idea? What was that moment or a time in your life which made you decide, all right, I've worked in these big companies, made them grown myself, but now I want to start something of my own?
It's really the problem and the impact of solving that problem. The startups are all about solving problems that are not solved before. The thing that most companies don't realize is that they already have this data that they are collecting, but they are not making the transition to actually capture the value in the data.
What are your thoughts on the impact of these AI accelerated coding tools? And what message would you give to, say, developers who are integrating these tools in their day-to-day work?
So instead of taking 10 years to get to a stage where you can actually write the best code, you can probably get there in a year or two now. Like, no job is too small. Every job is important. The job exists because it is important. So give your best and someone will always recognize.
Welcome to Simulated Reality. This is A Media House, and today we have here with us a guest that we are extremely excited to talk to. We have founder of StarTree, Kishore Gopalakrishna. Kishore, welcome to A Media House.
Thank you, Korak. Really excited to be here.
Kishore, how are you? How have you been?
I'm doing great. I just got here a day ago, so I hope I'm still recovering from the jet lag. So,
Can imagine. Welcome back to India once again. How many visits do you get to take to India in a year?
Oh, in a year, just one. I think it's more or less like once in 2 years. I think now that we have a team here, we have close to 25 to 30 people, and I'm guessing that frequency is going to go up.
Definitely it will. Hopefully soon an office and a branch here as well,
Yes.
and then multiple other cities. Before we get to the business talk, before we talk shop, I want to ask a little, do you miss India?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I'm a native of Bangalore, so I definitely miss India a lot. And any opportunity that I get to come here, I always take it.
The Bizivele Bhat and the Donne Biryani, are those available there at all?
Those are all new things. There are a lot of things that I miss from back in the day. So I've been born and brought up in Bangalore, so I have a lot of other favorite things that I come here, and especially my mom and my relatives, they cook really fascinating things like all the akki rotis and ragi rotis and the ragi balls, if you're familiar with those things. Those are my favorite.
The akki rotis I'm actually familiar with. Soon
Okay.
have started working out, and what I do is I take chicken roll from a roll place, keep the maida paratha aside, put the chicken in an akki roti and then have it. And I
There
don't
you
feel
go.
guilty.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
We definitely want to talk about StarTree and how it started. But before that, we want to get to know the person that Kishore is as well. So if in short, you can tell us what your growing years were like, what was education in Bangalore like. In short, if you can tell us how that was like and how that led to the entrepreneurial journey.
I think the best part about Bangalore is you can see about all the problems that you see with traffic, with every infrastructure not being right here and there. But I think that was part of my upbringing as well. And I think there are two ways to look at all these things. You can look at them as problems, but it's also an opportunity for being creative. And how do you get to place A to place B in the most creative way? And yes, it can be daunting at times, but for me, being in Bangalore and the way it has progressed over 25 years is actually a huge opportunity for us to learn things, right? I think that's kind of what has shaped me, and it gives you this thing of no problem is big enough, right? And you can pretty much, if you make up your mind and if you have the will, you can actually solve that. So if you have to go from one place to another, if you have to just stop and run, or you want to take your bike and go there, so you can make that happen. If you want to get your driving license, it was not easy. You have to go and talk to a lot of people to make that happen. So I think, to me, since the beginning, I think in Bangalore, it's a place where you can come in. There is the right opportunity for you to learn things, and the best part of Bangalore is the weather, the water,
Beautiful.
the beautiful weather. You can't ask for that. It's very similar to the weather back in California as well. So that's kind of why you referred to Bangalore as the Silicon Valley of India. So I think that is the best part here, and I really enjoyed it, and that's part of who I am. And the best part, another one, was the sports here in Bangalore. So you could play a lot of sports. There were a lot of grounds that you don't see it anymore. But that was another thing that actually was a big part of my life. I was a big cricket fan, and I do get a chance to sponsor some of the tournaments back in Bay Area.
Oh, lovely.
So in fact, the Crick Bay, uh, which has like around 100 teams in Bay Area, we actually sponsored that season this year. So that is another thing that led me to where I am. I think overall, the experience that I got here and kind of turned me into who I am.
And a hardcore Indian cricket fan, keeping the cricket passion alive in America.
Yes, and I hope RCB will finally win.
Oh Lord, oh Lord. Well, the RCB women's team won in the second season
Yes,
itself.
that's true. I stand corrected, so it should be RCB men winning.
When I was researching on you, I found out that you worked in these really big, really fascinating companies. When I was looking up your LinkedIn, I found out that you worked at LinkedIn.
Yes.
You worked at Oracle. So what was that journey like? And how much of that experience actually helped a lot when you started your entrepreneurial journey as well?
My experience at all these companies were very different. At Oracle, I was in India Oracle, not in US, so I always saw how it is to work on it in an MNC, but that's offshore and not in the main headquarters. So very different learning when I worked at Oracle. But my real learning actually started off at Yahoo and then at LinkedIn, because you get to see all these things up close in terms of how things happen. And the biggest part is in these companies when you get an opportunity to see something from scratch, right? Because you are given a plain field and then you are given the opportunity and to actually solve things that are not done before. And I think that's really translates to a lot of other things, right? Even in an entrepreneurial journey or starting something new, you are always staring at this blank space, and you're like, okay, what do I do right now? And there are so many different ways you can actually start off with, or so many different directions you can go into. I think that's something that you learn. Continuing on my previous point, it's also about people that you learn, right? And your startup might be small, that you're actually not working with a lot of people, but then as you grow and as you talk to customers, it helps you understand how people work. I think the biggest overall, and if I have to summarize what you learn in these big companies, it's you really have to work through all the things, right? So technology is one part of it, but then there is a huge part of people and process, right? And most of them think it's just the technology, but the people and process are also equally important to get anything done. So that combination of how these three things work together is something that big companies actually teach you. And obviously, it's also a great opportunity that you get in these companies, because you don't get to build systems like Apache Pinot in every company. So that's another wonderful thing that you get to learn. Big advantage that you have with these companies is also the sheer scale, right? I mean, you think about Yahoo, like tens of thousands of servers that we were actually. How do you write a code that works on all these servers without crashing, right? And how do you solve a problem for LinkedIn? If you look at it, we went from few millions users to hundreds of millions to like billions of users right now. So that scale is not seen everywhere. So you get an opportunity to build things that can actually scale, and it's very different when you're building for scale versus you're building for just few users or few machines.
Bill, you definitely did. So tell us what was that idea, what was that moment or a time in your life which made you decide, all right, I've worked in these big companies, made them grown myself, but now I want to start something of my own. What led to that?
It's not. It's not. I wouldn't really think of it that way. I think it's for me. It's really the problem and the impact of solving that problem. I think that's what motivated me to actually start this company. And being at LinkedIn, our first we saw it firsthand of what this technology can do, and you all have experienced the power of what we have done at LinkedIn in terms of, if you go to any LinkedIn, you see any number, they're all like real-time analytics, examples of real-time analytics. So for me, it was beyond like, okay, yeah, LinkedIn is now benefiting from this. There is a lot of impact that we can see. How about other companies? And my first approach for that was just open sourcing it and let other companies actually adopt it. That's a good way for you to make sure that what you have done, you can see the impact from other companies. But then you open source can only take it so far, because while LinkedIn's best interest is to make sure that they get the technology adopted within LinkedIn, our goal was how do we make other companies actually adopt this? And LinkedIn's mission is not really that. And for me, in order to do that, starting a company was the next important thing. So overall, it was really that, hey, how do we get data, make data accessible to pretty much everyone so that they can make decisions based on data. And company was a means to actually get there. So that's what led me to start the company.
Absolutely. You mentioned problem solving was the key factor, the major motivation. So what was the pain? What was the problem that you were looking to solve?
As I mentioned, the first one was really making data accessible for everyone, right? I think data democratization is something that a lot of companies talk about, but they mean data democratization within the company. They're not talking about their customers and their users. Most people don't understand that, but that transformation has already happened and it continues to happen. Same thing on, like, if you want to go from here to there, which route are you taking? You're looking at the time it takes. So the data-based decision, data-driven decisions, is now applicable to pretty much everyone, and that was the real problem in terms of making this available to the the sheer scale of that was the biggest challenge, and that translated into what's the technology that we need to build that can address the challenges that come with it.
In 2019, if I'm not wrong, is when the company started, right?
Yeah, end of 2019. I would say early 2020.
Early 2020 to soon, you guys will be completing 5 years.
Yes.
So massive, massive congratulations on the
Thank you.
5 years anniversary of StarTree.
Thank you so much.
The journey has been amazing. You guys are doing very, very impressive numbers and very, very fascinating work. Say somebody who's not an industry insider or not completely familiar with the jargons, if in easy language you have to explain to somebody what is StarTree and what does it do?
Yeah, I think the way we try to describe in terms of what StarTree does is making sure you provide analytics to your users and your end users, and in the most efficient and cost efficient way. I think that's the best way we can actually describe what we do, and we do it very well. I think that's the key value that we provide, because a lot of customers are holding a lot of data, and they can actually extract a lot of value by providing insights to their customers. And real-time analytics platform is something that every company needs right now.
5 years of a journey that is soon to be completed. So for our podcast, there are another podcast that we conduct called Cult Tech. We talk to many of these industry leaders, and often we have found out this answer where they say that successes are great, but often it is the setbacks that teach you more. It is the setbacks that in some way or the other make the company grow further. So if you can tell us some of those, do you agree with that? And if you do, was there something that happened like that with StarTree as well?
Oh, that's 100% true. There's no way to make progress if you don't see that. And the reason is startups are all about solving problems that have not solved before.
Right.
I mean, if the problem has already been solved, there is no scope for the startup to succeed. So by definition, you are going to get into problems that have not been solved. So for us, we did see. I think for us, the first part is the problem clear? Do people actually have this problem? That was more or less established because of the open source, and we saw the adoption in all these companies. I think the biggest setback we saw very early on was how do they consume these services, right? And because there was a lot of shift from people moving from on-prem to cloud, and there were also ways in which they were consuming those services, like Snowflake, and was a big example of that. And our biggest setback there was people were not willing to ship the data outside. People were a lot more sensitive about the security, and we wanted to do the public SaaS like Snowflake and other companies, but that was not possible. So they have a very specific way in which they wanted to consume. But at the same time, my goal was always to offer the best in terms of management and services. So we had to provide this as a service as well. So it's just really solving that two constraints together, which is they wanted the security and governance of an on-prem solution, but they wanted the ease of use and hands-off operations of a public SaaS. So we built what is called as a bring your own cloud model, and that kind of was actually a challenge for us, and we were one of the first few companies that actually tried out this option. Now it looks like it was an obvious choice because a lot more companies have started doing it. But that's something that was one of the big challenges that we had in early days, and we had to make a call on going one way or the other.
And which call did you guys take?
We took the call of the hard one, which no one had done. We had to do the bring your own cloud model. But at the same time, we kept the vision of making sure that we can get to the SaaS version in down the lane. And that's what we did. So we did launch the SaaS version as well, but not as the first version, but as the second version. And now we have gone even further in terms of a multi-tenant SaaS as well. So keeping in mind the vision, but also making sure you address the needs of the customer, because that's very important in the startup.
You've often spoken about the origins of Apacheepreneur and StarTree. So what initially sparked the idea behind StarTree, and how did you envision it evolving beyond just an extension of Pinion?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a story on how this happened. And when I left LinkedIn, I actually left LinkedIn in 2018. I really wanted to solve a problem, but I was not sure if the problem that we were trying to solve with Apache Pinot was big enough. So actually, I joined another startup, and me and my co-founder, we were trying to build a data platform for that startup. And one of the things that we attempted to do there was to use any other technology other than Apache Pinot to solve their data platform problem, because you're like, if we have built it, we don't want to be the users of it, so let's just pick. And that's kind of when we looked at all the systems out there, we eventually ended up thinking Apache Pinot is the right solution for that. And that's where it clicked me that, hey, I had something that we had built, and instead of trying to solve all the other problems, this is something that the world needs right now. And that's when we said, like, hey, let's go and build a company around Apache Pinot as a service. So that was one aspect. And the second aspect was also in terms of the timing. A lot of companies started becoming the SaaS companies. So there was a big rise of companies that are becoming cloud native. And so they are all getting the data from their customers. So they have to give something back to their customers when they're tracking and collecting all this data. And that was also another intersection where it was pretty clear that most of these companies will end up building services and providing analytics as a service to their customers. So it was the timing that was also important, and the need was also very clear of more and more users becoming digital native, becoming more data savvy, and they want more. So and every customer had to cater to the needs of their customers. So I think all these three things put together was like the timing was perfect for us to get started.
So Kishore, StarTree has achieved very impressive growth in H1 FY25. Say 90% revenue increase has happened, 80% customer expansion has happened. What do you think are the key drivers behind this very rapid adoption? And say, how are the different industries leveraging real-time analytics to transform their analytics?
I would say there are a few. One is definitely more and more companies are realizing the importance of this, and the way we did it, I mean, we always see like who are the initial adopters of whenever a new technology comes in. Like we have the LinkedIns and Ubers and the Stripes and the DoorDash of the world. But now, once you see the leaders in every vertical do this, the others also start following up. So that's one of the things that people are actually realizing this. And then the second part is also the cost of doing something like this, and that's becoming even more important with the market changes and how every company is actually becoming cost effective. So two things. One is making sure that the companies are lot more customer obsessed now. They want to make sure that they give everything that the customer wants, and two, being able to do that efficiently. And that's right in our sweet spot in terms of what we deliver as a platform and as a service for StarTree. And that's one of the reasons why we see more and more companies adopting this technology, because they are able to get deliver what the users want, and at a very efficient and cost-effective way.
You know, the efficiency, the cost effectiveness, the delivering quality that you talk about. In the 5 years of journey that you've had till now with StarTree, with your family, StarTree family, what are some of the things that have made you most proud? What are some of the things that you're most satisfied with?
There are a lot. I would start off with, in terms of just focusing on the cost aspect. I think tiered storage is one of the things that we are very happy with, because this was a big design change for us, and I'm always a big believer of like most of the distributed systems, it's very hard to change design. and from where they started. I think it was a very hard transition for us because we first built Apache Pinot for being local, but to get the cost effectiveness, we had to make sure that it is cloud native as well, so that it can work directly on top of S3. And that was a big transition for us, being able to separate the compute and storage. But we were able to do it in a very efficient manner and without compromising on the speed, because we are really known for how fast we can serve our queries, and we didn't want to move away from that and then become like this slow database. That's something that we are very proud of in terms of how we achieved that, and that has actually translated into a lot of hundreds of thousands of dollars saving for our customers.
Speaking of things that you are and would be proud of, tell us about your new product, current 2024.
So we are working on multiple of them. One of the things that we are really proud of is in the observability space. So we are launching this product in terms of taking real-time analytics to the next level. So one of the things that is happening in the world today is the observability space is kind of collapsing into one single solution, instead of having one stack for your metrics, one stack for your logs, and one stack for your traces, and also another stack for your event observability. So people are adopting this disaggregated stack. And so instead of having these end-to-end solutions which are vertical, we are thinking about one horizontal storage layer and query layer that you can actually build all these applications. So we are super excited about that. And this is again something that the customers actually wanted us to build it. They saw the power of Pinot, they saw how fast it is, and everyone like, hey, can we actually leverage Pinot for observability as well? So this is really great for us, because this is something that we have made them successful with the real-time analytics platform, where they can actually build data products on top of it. And now they are coming and asking us for more. And this is a natural extension, and the timing is also, again, I strongly believe in terms of making sure it's the right timing for building these products.
There is something that is making a lot of news of late in the startup ecosystem of the world, and that is basically the approach that a lot of entrepreneurs take when it comes to running their company. There's one side of it which is the founder approach, and there's another side of it which is the managerial approach. So if we ask you, which approach did you go for right at the start 5 years back? Has that approach changed? Has the belief in that approach become even stronger? Which one was it?
I think to me, it's always important for you to know which mode you want to be. So it's not like it's extreme where you're always in like the founder mode or the manager mode. I think there are a lot more modes between the two. I don't think there is just these two modes.
Correct.
And I think the analogy that I always had, and this is something that I also spoke to the team, is it's like your car. Imagine your car has only one gear. You cannot drive that
Correct.
car efficiently. So it's really that's the analogy that I think of, is like, hey, you need to have different gears. And the key is to know that if you are a good driver, you know what gear you need to be in. So I think it's a combination of that, which is making sure that you have different gears, but more important is knowing when to be in what gear. So if you're going in the potholes, you don't want to be in your fifth gear, but you're cruising along, you want to be in the fifth gear. So you can think of those two gears extremes as like being in the founder mode, where you're like really involved in every detail, and it's another extreme where you don't need to be involved. So again, the challenge, I think it's not about having these modes, but also knowing when to be in what mode.
The gear example that you gave me instantly made me think of something. This is two cricket passionate fans talking to each other, and one from Bangalore, another very fond of cricketers who have come out of Bangalore. So if you give Rahul Dravid's example, the man's sometimes played 250 balls to score 20 runs to save a test match.
Yeah.
And once he was batting at the death overs in an ODI match, he scored 50 off 21 balls against New Zealand.
Yes,
So different gears.
Yes.
Different gears. You just have to pick and choose which gear suits at which time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true with pretty much everything, and I think it's not necessarily with just startup or big companies. I think it's everywhere. Even if you think about a project, is it beginning of the project? Is it like the project is all done? Is it in a maintenance mode, or is it in an innovation mode? I think they're all different modes. So you just need to know when each mode is. And I think most people that's where they face resistance, because they are not able to make those changes, and they say, I want to have all the processes needed in the beginning of the project where you want to run as fast as you can, and whereas when the project is in kind of in production, then you want to have a different mode in how you operate it. So absolutely, I completely agree. That's what makes a complete batsman.
When you're following the manager approach, are you a micromanager?
I definitely want to know the way I look at it in terms of being micromanager or not is when I talk to someone, my biggest question is, do they know why they're doing what? So if I know that if the answer to the why is good, then I just let them take it on their own. But sometimes most people don't understand the why, so I always start off with that. That's where I try to help them if they don't understand the why part of it. Because most people are just focused on the what, and I think that's kind of how I actually translate between being a micromanager versus just letting them do what they want.
Kishore, we are hearing about this really interesting engineering competition that is going on at StarTree with a very, very cool, fascinating name as well. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, we are actually super excited about that competition, and it's called Mission Impossible Data Reckoning. And this is a competition run by engineers and for the engineers, and it's for 10 weeks, and we have 5 different competitions, and it's based on the core real-time analytics platform. And we are offering the free StarTree Cloud credit or the tier for our users to actually just sign up and then actually solve these problems, and then there will be prizes in the end. And we are super excited about that.
So, Kishore, two cricket fans are talking. Of course, cricket analogies will continue. Partnerships are very important in cricket. StarTree also has formed some very, very fascinating and very fruitful partnerships, say with major cloud providers like AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. How have these partnerships influenced StarTree's growth? And what role do they play, say, in the company's vision for the future?
These players are very important because as a startup, having relationship with these cloud providers it's almost mandatory, right? Because you get access to so many companies, and a lot of companies who have transitioned to cloud are on one of these major providers. So for us, that has been something that we started very early on. Probably year 3 is when we started. We have a fantastic person in our channel who has done this before, who has worked with AWS and GCP and Azure. So for us, it gives access to their customers who are actually looking at this. It's first and foremost, it gives us the awareness, which is very hard to get in this world. So having working with major cloud providers and having this partnership gives us access to them. So that's the first. And then the second part is also the support that we get from them. So whenever we run our services, we run our cloud services in all these cloud providers. So we run into some challenges sometime, and they're always available for us to help. Something that would have taken us a month or 2 to figure out, they actually come in with their best people, and they help us in terms of addressing those challenges. And last but not the least, it's also a win-win situation. They also tell us like, hey, these are the systems that are available, these are the certifications that are available that we can actually leverage. For example, AWS Vendor Insights is a fantastic program where they come in and they evaluate our entire security posture. And that gives a lot of confidence to our customers that, hey, all these checks have been done and has been passed. So when we run our Bring Your Own Cloud, they are actually comfortable and confident that, hey, this has cleared all the security checklist. So it's a win-win. That's the way I see it, and it's also a nice win-win because they don't have any competing technologies as well, which is generally the case with a lot of companies. And luckily for us, we are actually pushing the boundaries of analytics. So this is actually a complementary services in terms of what they offer and what we offer.
Kishore, with real-time analytics becoming increasingly vital for companies, how do you see industries like, say, financial services, healthcare, media, how will their operations transform to meet this demand for up-to-the-minute, on-time insights?
Let's take an example of the financial industry, right? So, I mean, Citibank is actually is a customer of ours. They also invested in us. And if you look at the problem that they were solving, they used to take like around 10 minutes to get an insight. And they went from 10 minutes to sub-second. When we talk about freshness, we are talking about an event happened right now. how quickly can you get insights from that? So that's
Exactly.
what we are really measuring in terms of the events to insights, and that's the problem that we are actually trying to solve. And they went from 10 minutes to sub-second. And in the grand scheme of things, sometimes they say, yeah, 10 minutes is fine. I don't really need sub-second. But for companies like in the financial industry, that's almost like multiple years. And the amount of business value that you will lose in 10 minutes is huge. And so they were willing to make this transition to go from their traditional legacy databases that they had used to actually go to something like Apache Pinot and StarTree. So there is a lot of value in actually making this transition. And the thing that most companies don't realize is that they already have this data that they are collecting, but they are not making that shift or the transition to actually capture the value in the data. Let's say you're searching for a pizza. How long is the value of that? That's probably like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you've probably placed an order. And if I know that you search for a pizza the next day and I'm trying to send you a coupon, like you are not going to buy that, right? So that's what is happening in the world right now is like the value of an event is so high at the time it happens, and then it decays exponentially. What we are seeing is the leaders in all these industries are actually looking for additional competitive advantages, and they are the ones who first adopt. So same thing we are seeing with healthcare as well. For the first set of leaders, it's like a competitive advantage, and the rest of the companies, it becomes like a must-have because they won't survive. Because now, as a customer, you have seen what's the art of possible, and you expect every company to actually provide that.
So Kishore, as StarTree continues to grow, what's next? Can you share any upcoming innovations or strategic areas of focus as you look ahead to the company's future, both near and a distant future?
I'm definitely one of the biggest thing that's happening is the AI, right? And we all are looking forward for that. And the first thing that we did was also add the vector index support within Pinot. So that's one additional index that we have added. And indexing has been like our first class citizen. So we want to make sure it's easier for people to actually query this data. So that goal continues to keep happening, whether it's vector index or something else, we will add that. And some of these have already happened on Pinot, right? We don't call them AI, but if you go to LinkedIn feed today, what you see in the feed is actually based on the data in Pinot. So it has already been used as like a real-time feature store, right? And so that will continue to happen in the AI space. So more and more questions will be answered through data. Like let's say right now, if you go to Uber Eats and you're looking for what restaurant, you are looking at the number, it's taking 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, and you're making the decision. What if you were just to ask, tell me which restaurant I should actually order it from, and here are all my constraints. I want it to be less than this, I want this, I want that, and then it actually comes up with. So there are a lot of these things that will actually change, and the behavior of the customers will change, and I think that's what we are really, really excited about. And then the second part, which is going to become even more interesting, is we talk about the user-facing analytics. I think the world will move more towards machine-facing analytics, where you don't want human to be taking all these minor decisions also, so you can actually have machines take up those decisions. Thing is, like, we have actually gone from internal users to external users who are millions of users. Now it can actually be billions of machines that are actually constantly querying the data to actually take the next action. So overall, this along with the advancement in AI, we are super excited. I think data is going to become even more important than what it is.
So Kishore, with AI-powered coding tools like GitHub Copilot, Zero One Cursor, Cloud with Sonnet 3.5, Amazon Q, and the newest OpenAI O1, developers are now able to build applications using natural language. What are your thoughts on the impact of these AI-accelerated coding tools? And what message would you give to, say, developers who are integrating these tools in their day-to-day work?
Ask the ChatGPT a question of, hey, here is an interface that we have in Pinot, and here is a connector that we actually need to write for this particular data source. It actually wrote the code, and I know Pinot so well, and it's kind of, I'm admitting here, it actually wrote a better code than what I would have written.
Wow.
So I think there is a lot of value add, and I think every developer should look into this. I think it's kind of scary to see that it can actually write better code and a lot more modular, a lot more elegant than what you could have actually possibly written. So I think that's a fascinating thing, and it's inevitable. Again, one of those things where we can't fight it. It's happening. It's going to happen. So it's more about how quickly are you willing to change your mindset and embrace it, and then actually capitalize on it, rather than fighting it. So I think that's the message for the developers as well. And I would say be creative. I think there are so many creative ways that you can actually do. Not even new code. You can actually throw out the existing code and then just learn. I mean, especially for folks who have come in just out of college or just getting into coding, they have to learn a lot of things. They can actually throw in the existing code and say like, hey, if you have to make this code modular, what would happen? So instead of taking 10 years to get to a stage where you can actually write the best code, you can probably get there in a year or two now, because you can ask these systems and then you can try to understand why did it write this code.
That is what OpenAI O1 is doing as well.
Exactly.
I mean, you just a few prompts and the entire code for starting from a game to a website can be written, and the accuracy is so much better than the last one that had come out either.
Yes.
Exactly. So how scary can the limitations actually be? How negative can the impacts actually be, as they say, the negative impacts of AI? How much scary could they actually be in the near future?
I mean, it's important for you to know still why something is happening. If you don't want to be completely blind, and yes, it is important to have some trust in terms of the code itself, but you got to validate it, right? And I actually did this for my daughter. She was into robotics, and I asked her to actually use the chat GPT for going from point A to point B, and it had to split a formula of like looking at the tan, theta, cos theta, and things like that. It actually gave a wrong answer, but it made it look, it was super confident about that answer, right? But so you got to know how to validate it and how to ask the right set of questions as well. So I think the scary part is when you are just believing it blindly.
Correct.
And then just put it into the system, and then it just and especially when it exaggerates the bias that is already there in the system sometimes, be it bias with the gender, with any of the ethnicity, and then it kind of makes it even worse because it's learning from the things that are already existing, and it thinks that's the truth and that's what needs to continue to happen. So it reinforces, and you kind of so the negative things that are already happening can get amplified even more.
Correct.
And the positive thing is like, yes, the good things that are happening can also get amplified. So it's important for us as humans to see like which one is getting amplified.
Absolutely. Also, location and area specific data is also important. If you talk about ChatGPT, everybody in the country is also using it, but the data is Western data.
Yeah.
And that's where something like Krutrim has come up, which is Indian data made for Indian people and now will be used globally.
Yes.
Yes. Also, your take on responsible usage of AI?
I think that was always existed. I mean, all these tools, you can do a lot of different things. I mean, there was even before the responsible AI, there was issues where people would issue credit cards based on wrong data, and so I think it's across the board. It's nothing special that has changed. So it just makes it more important for you to take care of all the users, make sure that you're not violating any of the policies, and you're not, as I mentioned, not amplifying the negative that already exists.
Kishore, we're almost towards the end of the podcast. There's one question that I specifically want to ask you. That's because a lot of Indian families have the job mentality. They want to put into the thought process into the kids that study well and then do a job, do it well, become successful, and then there's the business mentality as well. You have went ahead and become successful in both. So if one has to ask you an advice for Indian youngsters who have finished studies, want to make a career for themselves, maybe want to become successful in the job that they're doing, maybe they don't want to do jobs, want to start something of their own, want to become entrepreneurs, what will be the one advice that you would like to give to budding Indian youngsters who want to build a career for themselves?
I think the first thing that I would always embrace is give your best, whatever you're doing. I think there is a lot of I think for the lack of better term, I would use like entitlement, that this job is too low for me, or
Correct.
I think that mindset will never get you anywhere. Like no job is too small. Every job is important. The job exists because it is important. So give your best, and someone will always recognize.
Before we let you go, one last question. Uh, the world is truly looking at India in a completely different eye right now than what it used to look at India maybe a couple of decades back. Just in December, and after that, there was one more GPI summit that happened, Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, where I was talking to all these industry experts from across the globe. And just the way they talked about technologies that are being created in India was with a different light altogether. I mean, there were industry experts from Germany, Finland, everywhere. They were talking about UPI in a way that was blowing their minds. They were saying, I got out of the car, bought a bottle of water for 10 rupees from, it's not even a shop, it's a hawker, and he had the QR code. So their minds were blown with so many of the things that are being developed in the country. Makes us very proud. How does that make you feel as an Indian who's working there right now? And there, in the States, in the world, the business that is happening there, the business world that is happening there, how is that part looking at India?
For me, first of all, it's super exciting to see this. I mean, just like you mentioned, last time when I came in, I was buying a coconut water, and then he had this phone, and you had to just swipe it, and then he had some music speaker there that would beep something, and then say, yeah, you're done.
In Amitabh Bachchan's voice.
And it's fascinating to see that, right? And I'm the only one who is carrying cash here. And it kind of felt odd first, but it's amazing to see that. And again, this is exactly what happened in US long time ago, right? It became the land of opportunity where you can pretty much dream big, and that's kind of what is happening in India right now. So there is nothing stopping you from doing what you want, and that's a fantastic feeling that didn't exist, unfortunately, when I was out of college. I had to go there to actually get an opportunity to work on these things, and if I were to start again here, this is the place that I would have actually built the company. So I think it's a fascinating place, lots of opportunities, right? And especially the diversity that exists in India. So there is so many different problems that needs to be solved, and I don't think those problems are going away any soon. So it's really going to be the land of opportunity in the future.
Lovely to hear that, Kishore. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time here at AIM Media House. You guys at StarTree are doing some very exceptional and fascinating work. Keep up the great work, and we are really, really looking forward.
Thank you so much, Korak. It was really nice being here, and thanks for having me. And congratulations to all the success that AI Media House has done.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Kishore here from StarTree, founder of StarTree. Do write in the comments, how did you find this podcast? How did you like it? And of course, for more such content just like this, don't forget to subscribe to AIM Media House. This is me, your friend Korak. See you in the next one.